All right, I'm going to say something crazy. For many of you, you will guarantee some fat loss, probably around 12 pounds of fat loss, with just 2 easy steps. I know it sounds too good to be true, but I'm being dead serious. 2 easy steps and lose probably around 12 pounds of body fat. Let's go. I'll start with the first one, but I'm going to also, after I say it, we're going to really break it down as to why this is such a big one. But it's
Don't eat.
don't eat. No, eliminate processed foods. Yeah. Just don't eat heavily processed foods. All right, so let's back up for a second.
Okay.
The 2 steps that we're picking for this, number 1, have to be very clear. They have to be easy to follow, and they have to have a big impact, because there's lots of steps you could take for fat loss. But one thing you learn as a trainer or a coach when you train lots and lots of people is you're more effective when you can pick things that people will do, can do, and that they don't have to do much else.
Yeah.
They have lots of downstream effects. Now, processed foods this is a big one. In fact, I just read an article this morning as I was prepping for this episode, and they're now finally starting to show the strong correlation, and they're making the connection. And I know this is going to happen. They'll come out and say this is the main cause of the obesity epidemic in Western societies. There's lots of factors that play into that, but the biggest factor is the prevalence of heavily processed foods. And what you'll see is, as heavily processed foods became more and more of our diet, our obesity epidemic grew alongside with the influx or the use or how often or how much people ate these heavily processed foods.
What did they estimate? It was around 500 extra calories you tend to eat as a result?
So what's interesting about food studies or diet studies is many of them are difficult to extrapolate from because they're survey-based. So it's like, how many tomatoes did you eat last week or something like that?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the studies done on processed foods are really, really well done because they actually are controlled. And they'll take groups of people, they'll put them in rooms, and they'll put in one room, they'll have whole natural foods. In the other room, they'll have heavily processed foods. By the way, heavily processed foods are like foods in wrappers, boxes, foods with lots of ingredients, right? So think of like,
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, like a banana versus like banana muffin or banana flavored candy or something like that, right? And they even controlled the macros. So in other words, similar macro breakdowns. Then they had the people eat until they were satisfied. That's all they said was just eat until you're satisfied. Don't control yourself or don't try to overeat. Just eat until you're satisfied. Then they switched the groups into the other rooms. So it's not like they just kept the same groups. They said, okay, now you're going to go in this room, your room, you're going to go in this room. And the studies consistently show roughly 600 more calories consumed from just the fact that you're eating heavily processed foods because they make you overeat. They're so powerful in making you overeat.
I think we should talk a little more too about what you kind of briefly said. Like, how do we come up with like just these 2 things? And we do this a lot on the podcast. We're like, just focus on this or just do that. And I think this is a really important conversation because there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of biohacking. There's a lot of diets out there. There's a lot of supplements out there. There's tons of different program advice. There's so much advice on how to get healthy, how to get fit. How do you distill this down to just 2? I think another part of that, Sal, is that when you think about eliminating, even if you failed and you were attempting to do a good job of this, you're going to move the needle.
Big impact.
Like if you take somebody who doesn't pay attention to this at all, just eats whatever they want, and they're like most American people that have mostly a highly processed diet,
over 70%,
and you just make an effort at trying to eliminate all processed food, you're going to see a big difference. That's why I think it's so same with your second tip that you have. Like these 2 tips to me, when I think I'm going to nail down just 2 things for my clients to focus on, I know that most people fail and most people have a hard time sticking to anything. And it's like, okay, what are the 2 things I could get them to focus on, knowing that they probably will fail, knowing that they will probably fall a little short, but yet I'll still show them a positive impact.
Listen, this is my experience. Consistently with my clients who wanted to lose weight, consistently like clockwork, if my client, all they did was effectively eliminate or severely restrict their processed food consumption. They tried nothing else. We have a second step here we're gonna get to. But the clients that I had that just did this, they didn't count macros, they didn't count calories, they didn't do anything else. I just said, eat as much as you want, whole natural foods, just eliminate. So when you're hungry, you want to snack, even if you want to snack, just make sure it's whole natural foods. On average, every single one would lose 10 to 15 pounds. Like some of them more, by the way. Sometimes it would be like 20 pounds, but on average, like 10 to 15 pounds of weight on the scale, body fat that would come off their bodies just from this one step alone. Now, it's important to understand the history of when this became a big problem. So right when the government regulations or government policy was starting to change around tobacco is when this became a big thing. So back in the day, the tobacco industry or the tobacco companies were the biggest companies in America. They were the biggest, most powerful companies in America. And they had their hands in government agencies. And they were really good at hiding data, trying to hide the fact that it caused cancer, that it was bad for you. In fact, they were so good at this that in the 1940s and 50s, there were even ads showing doctors recommending smoking cigarettes. But when they saw the writing on the wall and they're like, uh-oh, they're going to come after us. What are we going to do? Because once they start making this public policy, we're going to lose a lot of money. What these tobacco companies did is they, like any smart company, like, okay, let's figure out how to pivot. And what they did is they made, at the time, some of the largest corporate purchases in history. And what they bought were food companies. These massive tobacco companies, fearing for profit loss, looked around and said, where can we move to strengthen ourselves, maintain profits? And they bought the large food companies at the time. And what they did is they took their expert scientists that understood how to make tobacco and cigarettes very addictive, and they really figured out how to get their consumers to want to smoke more and more of their cigarettes. They took those same scientists and they said, hey, we now own these food companies.
Apply this to food. That
science that you guys understand, will it work with food? Yeah. And what the scientists did is they went in and they studied palatability. What is it about food that we enjoy? Why do we enjoy some foods more than others? And can we engineer this to make it far more powerful? And so the science in processed foods is so deep and so vast, and billions of dollars gone into this, where they have it down to a point where they can make you with the same fullness, the same satisfaction. I don't want to eat anymore, I'm full. They're so effective that they'll make you eat 600 more calories a day, which is, by the way, that is a lot. Like, to burn 600 calories, you have to do like 3 hours of cardio just to burn that for most people. They'll make you eat that much more with the same amount of satiety. That's how incredibly addictive and powerful these foods are. And it's been decades in the making.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking of some of the, not the scientists, but some of the behavioral scientists have actually were responsible for a lot of our Saturday morning cartoons to promote cereal. And that was the entire the entire thesis, what they actually constructed for that cartoon was to be able to sell this type of cereal for us as kids. And then we just have been indoctrinated with it's a part of a balanced diet. It's a part of a balanced meal. And it's like, it was always this like every commercial, it's so just deep ingrained in there and culturally, introduced that way, even from a young age, that like, this is a big thing that we have to kind of, filter out from our behavior.
Today's program giveaway is MAPS Powerlift. If you want to win that, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications. We'll let you know in the comment section if you won. We also have a sale this month. MAPS HIT and the Extreme Fitness Bundle. Both of them half off. Go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code April50 for that half off discount. Back to the show.
I know there's people that are listening and they're just like, come on, like how powerful can they do? I mean, how much is that really making a difference? I mean, their job is to make it taste good, look good, whatever. But I mean, it's not that crazy. And I love to use the man versus food example because it's such a cool way to show you how powerful this stuff is and like how you can manipulate things with palatability, with flavor, with textures, all these different stuff. And it's that episode where he has to eat a sink full of ice cream.
Yeah. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Remember, this is a TV show. He is challenged to finish this. And that's his goal. Like, right? He's good at this. He goes and he accomplishes these crazy. So he is stuffing his face, and you can see he's towards the bottom of this sink of ice cream. Right? Probably tens of thousands of calories he's already consumed. And you could tell he's getting nauseous and his stomach's starting to hurt.
Palate fatigue is kicking in.
Yeah, and he is just, I can't have any more. And he's in this restaurant and you see him order a large extra salty fries.
Yeah.
To come over. And I remember the first time even I saw that, and I understand, like, I was like, shit, what?
He's going to eat more other food.
Yeah, he's about to throw up.
More food.
And it has nothing to do with the competition, and he's not going to get any extra credit for eating something else. Why is he doing that? And it's for that exact reason that switching over from the ice cream over to a salty food like that changes his palate, right? So he doesn't get from the palate fatigue.
Went right back to the ice cream.
And then he went right back to the ice cream, and he finished more. And so you're talking about somebody who is forcing themselves to eat as much as they possibly cannot eat anymore, goes and orders something like salty fries. And so that's how powerful that science is.
I'll use this example. Doug, can you look up for me how many potatoes are in a large family-sized bag of potato chips? Because this is the example that I like to give. And really what it exemplifies, again, is what's known as palate fatigue or satiety signals, which is what they manipulate, right? They manipulate those things with what they put in these processed foods, and they're very profitable. You can patent them. They have a long shelf life. They're convenient. So let's see. Okay, so 4 pounds of potatoes.
Wow, it's 4 pounds
to make 1 pound of potato chips. Okay, so a family-sized bag of Lay's, which is about 13 ounces, requires about 3 1/4 pounds of potatoes. Okay, so now imagine this. If I put in front of you,
how many potatoes is 3 1/4 pounds? That's a lot of potatoes.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
What is that, like 8 potatoes?
I don't know.
Depends on the size of the potato.
I mean,
obviously,
give me a rough
like a medium size.
Give me a rough estimate.
Yeah,
give me an idea. That has to be, Sal. Whenever you've given us,
how much does
you've used an analogy before, and I think you've said like 3 to 5 potatoes or something like that. But this is like 8 full-size potatoes.
It's a good question. It's a very good question. But let's see what Doug
between 10 and 13 ounces for a large. So you're looking probably about 6 potatoes.
Okay,
I
so
guess.
imagine right now, just play along with me if you're listening to this or watching this, right? I put 6 plain boiled potatoes in front of you. Plain, boiled big potatoes right in front of you. And I say, eat these in an hour. Most people wouldn't be able to do it.
Maybe two, maybe 3.
3. And you're just like, oh, I'm gagging. But if I gave you a family-sized bag of Lay's potato
Irish,
chips,
dude.
Game on.
Okay.
you could probably finish it. Definitely eat more than the 3 potatoes, for sure, but you could probably finish it. And incidentally, the potato chips have oil and even more calories than the plain potatoes that you ate. It's not the calories.
Yeah.
It has to do with satiety and heavily processed foods. The money that goes into the engineering with these, the science is so crazy, you guys, it's not even funny. I mean, it boils down to the sound it makes when you crunch into it.
The color, the sound, the texture, the
it
taste,
leaves,
everything.
The aftertaste, like how long the taste, it's crazy the science that goes into this. And they produce drug-like effects in the brain, literally throwing satiety signals haywire. In fact, when they do the studies on processed foods, if you eat processed food versus a whole natural food, you actually eat it something like 50% faster even. So even the speed at which you consume it speeds up because of its effect on your body. And now here's what happens over time, just like any drug, well, I'll use a common drug that people consume every day, caffeine. Your first time you have coffee, man, you're like on fire, right? You drink it every single day after a week or two, that effect starts to wear off and you need more caffeine to get the same effect. Your brain starts to wire itself and shape itself around the stimulus. If you eat lots of processed foods at the time, a lot, your brain will mold itself after these foods as well. So it is literally the single most effective step you can do for fat loss. And like I said, most clients, 10 to 15 pounds, this alone, nothing else. It was like the biggest hack that I figured out halfway through my career.
It's crazy to me that there's still this debate around the obesity epidemic, like where it came from. It's like so, to Justin's point about the cereals and how we started that early on with the commercials with kids, you get children under the age of 5 addicted to these processed foods, and then you wonder why they have this crippling dependency on it as they age. Of course. No different than if you were to give this kid drugs, how hard at an early age, how hard it would be for them to try and pull off of that when they get into teenage years or adult years. And that's 100% of what's going on. Is like these kids at such an early age are getting all this food and you are completely changing their makeup.
There's lots of studies on, they call it the standard American diet, right? SAD is the acronym. And they'll show countries that will adopt this diet and then obesity skyrockets. And you're like, what diet are they adopting? It's a processed food diet. It's all of the major food companies that from America will move into a country, and they're very effective at selling the products. And like, again, long shelf life, they can produce it, ship it over there, whatever. and then their obesity will rise along with the consumption of these. So that's step number one. Do nothing else, just do that.
Before you go on to the next step, I'm just kidding. This is sorry, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a detour, but it's related to this. Just because I know there's a lot of news happening right now with RFK going to the Five Guys or whatever he is, and they're getting rid of the seed oils, and they're doing that
beef tallow instead.
Yeah. So what is your? Because I'm hopeful. I'm not excited. I don't trust, but I'm hopeful for this whole make America healthy again, and like moving in this direction. And like, is there a possibility that we'll actually see the same way we saw campaigns against cigarettes and making people awareness of its addictive properties? Is it possible we might start moving in this direction around processed fast foods?
I think so.
But there seems to be a divide in our fitness space on that. Like obviously there's a bit of propaganda there. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Most anything that's coming from any, elected officials, somewhat of propaganda. But do you think it's positive? Do you think it's negligible? It doesn't matter because it's fast food anyways?
What they're doing is they're taking single things that he's talked about and then saying that's not going to make that big of a difference. But the overall picture, I think they get it better than anybody I've heard in government. I mean, he talks about the dangers of individual ingredients, certain preservatives and dyes. I think there's a definite concern for some of it. But I think in general, he does also talk about, at least he talks about the advertising of these foods to kids. Yeah.
It seems strategic to do it that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Because if you're really trying to like just completely get everybody to abandon processed food, that's a humongous, like ask. And to be able to kind of pick apart one item at a time, I think it's bringing awareness at least for that. Because I have heard the argument, like, yeah, of course, like just changing over to beef tallow, it's like you're still getting a lot of calories, like you're still going to fast food.
Right.
It's all of that, and I understand that perspective. But if you're going to look at it from like, sort of chipping away at the big, huge statue in the room. Like
I would love to see them go after like things related advertising to kids and going that direction.
To me seems
absolutely.
Like
I think that's a huge
That seems like a big easy step.
Yeah.
It does.
I think if you walk into the grocery store and you look at the foods for children, 99.9% of them, these crazy hyper palatable ultra processed.
Yeah, that for kids, and then drugs marketed on openly. Like we should cut that.
Isn't there a country that disallows that? Like you can't have the candy at the here in America. When you go to the line in a grocery store, where's all the candy?
Yeah.
And where's it located?
It's where the kids
super low, right? It's down by your ankles and your knees. It's super annoying if you want that Snickers bar at the bottom. Like it's like not for you. It wasn't even there for you.
Reach it over my belly.
Yeah, it's literally for the kid who's been screaming to get out of the grocery store for the last half hour and is now pulling on the mom's shirt or the dad's shirt that they want this bar, and you just want to shut the kid up, and so you just throw it on the track, right?
Just to make my point, like this is how powerful processed foods are in terms of making you overeat. Processed health foods will make you overeat as well.
Yeah.
Like a protein bar with 40 grams of protein will not produce the satiety of 40 grams of protein in steak or chicken. It just doesn't. This is a great hack if you're a hard gainer and you need to smash some calories in. But processed foods they just do that.
Do you remember me sharing that with you guys? Or I found it when I was competing, and then I told you how I was using the bars, not using the bars, and then it was so crazy to me. And this is not to pick on Quest; it was just happened to be the bars I was using. I used a lot of their bars, and I remember in these shows where I would allow myself to have it, how much I loved it. I craved it. I'd find myself eating 2, 3 sometimes in a day. It felt like when you're restricting so hard, it's like, man, this feels like such a good treat. You know what I'm saying? And you justify it because it falls in the health food category. And then I remember coming off of it for an extended period of time. And again, feeling this pull towards it, just like I would with any other sort of addiction with any other foods. And then getting to a point where it's been away for so long, and then reintroducing it and how gross it tasted at first. But then if I powered through that, it doesn't taste very gross. It doesn't taste very good. Then it gets a little bit better. Then it gets and then by the third time or fourth time, I feel that come back. It's a trip.
Yeah. So this will happen if you don't eat a lot of sweets, for example. And you'll see this with kids who don't eat a lot of sweets. Like if you don't feed them a lot,
it's too powerful.
It's overwhelming on the brain. But you eventually adapt to it. Again, I'll use the caffeine example. You never have coffee. Someone gives you a grande cold brew,
nitro, yeah.
you're going to the ER. Like you're going to go to the ER. Like you got to take time to build up.
Flying to the moon.
Right. So it's very similar, very powerful in how they affect you. And you will lose if you eat them. If your goal is to lose weight and you eat a lot of these, either you're going to gain the weight, it's not going to happen, or you're going to white knuckle this entire process. So if you simply eliminate those and continue to eat until you're satisfied, you will lose body fat.
Yeah.
The next step is to eat protein and eat it first. Now, what we typically do is we recommend, eating this many grams for how much you weigh type of deal. I'm going to make it as simple as possible. I'm going to make it super simple. And what I did was I tried to make it so simple that it would cover most people. So here are the recommendations. For women, with your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eat 35 grams of protein from whole natural foods, eat it first. For men, 50 grams of protein, whole natural foods, eat it first. What does that look like? 6 ounces of meat for women, about 8 ounces of meat for men. Eat that first, then eat the rest, whole natural foods. If you do those 2 steps right there, and you strength train, you're going to build muscle and burn body fat. And you're probably going to lose about 12 pounds over a nice period of maybe 14 weeks or something.
I think there's a bit of psychology to that too that's going on, right? Like there's something freeing to, at least this is the experience I've had when I tell clients this. They would always come back like, is that it? What do you mean? What about my my carb intake and my fat intake and my total calories? And it's just like, no, listen, this is all
take care of itself.
Yeah, let's just focus on this for now, and then we'll get there. But this is going to take care of the first big step for us. And I found that was so freeing for them that it's just like, these are all the parameters I have. Just eat whole foods. I can eat what I want, when I want, how I want. Like, yeah, absolutely. Just do that and then eat the protein first.
That's it.
Like, that's it. Like, you can, I'm not going to tell you what to put on your plate or how much of it. Just eat the protein first and eat whole foods. And then we'll work on the next step later down the road. But this is going to take us so far.
And I'll make this statement right here. A majority of people, not all, but a majority of people, probably 70% or more, if all they ever did was this and they did it consistently and they exercised appropriately, and that's all they did nothing else with their diet, nothing else, most men would fall probably within 14 to 17% body fat. So you'll be at a nice body fat percentage. And most women will be somewhere in the low 20s. That's a majority of people if they just did those 2 things right there and they did them consistently over time. By the way, the reason why we say eat protein first or eat protein, number one, it also produces satiety. So it does also help with appetite. But number 2, when calories are controlled, a high protein diet results in more fat loss and more muscle gain or muscle preservation at the least. So you're more likely to lose pure body fat by having a high protein diet than you are having a low protein diet, even if the calories are the same. But it has the dual effect of also helping with appetite, satiety. I mean, like, again, I'll say this again, and test me out. If you're listening to us right now and you want to lose some weight, do this and give yourself some time and you'll see a nice, slow, even fat loss over time. And you'll probably fall in this nice, healthy body fat percentage without doing anything else.
If you're doing this with 2 to 3 days of strength training, I'll show you in 30, 60 days a radical change.
Yeah.
30 to 60 days.
Yeah.
3 times a week, strength training paired with those 2 tips.
Yep.
In 30 days, you'll definitely feel and see some difference. 60 days, it'll
90 days will be measurable. For
oh
sure.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that I found that later on in my career, it's like, this is all I have to do. Like, and even the clients that were highly motivated to do more and they wanted more, I still would start here. Just do this. This is all we're going to need to do right now. You're going to see a bunch of change, and then we'll start to layer on all the other things that we can do.
So now I'm going to give some bonus steps for people who are like highly motivated. You want to do more? Fine. All you got to do is first 2, but I'll give you some bonus steps. Here's a bonus step. Don't eat while distracted. So in other words, while you're eating, don't be on your phone or watch TV. Studies show that you eat 10% more calories simply by being distracted. And then the second bonus step is don't drink any fluids while you eat. All that does is, there's no magic to this. It just forces you to chew your food more, and it allows those satiety signals to kick in sooner. Those 2 really have nothing to do with what you're eating, but rather they have to do with how you eat. So those are the bonus steps. You throw those in. I mean, that right there, by the way, what we just said is the most effective diet you'll find in the world. Right there. So no simple. Crazy anything.
Well, I mean, it's literally this is where I start. This is where I start with nutritionally, right? So where we start nutritionally, this is what it looks like. and then just becoming aware. The other thing too is like as you start to follow something just so as simple as this, you start to see your own habits and behaviors and where you're missing and what you need to do. And again, back to my original point of why I think these two are so powerful. Part of why I think they're so powerful is if you have somebody who didn't pay attention to protein at all, and they also ate a lot of processed food, just the attempt at those two things moves the needle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like, as a trainer, when you start to distill down to like the big, what we call the big rocks or the things for people to focus on, it's the things that move the needle, just attempting it. It's just like, if you attempt a couple full body workouts a week, I know that as long as you're getting 1 or 2 in there, it's going to make it move. It's going to move the needle.
Yes.
If you just attempt to eliminate processed foods, you're going to move the needle. If you just eat your protein first, always, you're going to move. I think that's what's so great about it.
35 grams for women, aim for that. 50 grams for men. I think generally speaking, for most people, that's a nice even target. Yeah. All right. So have you guys ever heard of the term Asian flush? Do you guys know what that is?
Asian flush.
I know it sounds
I'm sure
funny.
Doug knows.
Doug knows what that is, right?
Yeah.
You've heard of that, right?
Absolutely.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Detox?
yeah, Asian people oftentimes when they drink will get red in the face.
Yeah. Have you heard of
That's
this?
what you're referring to.
Yeah. So some they'll say, oh, they're allergic or whatever. No, it's actually
like a red. So my wife gets this too.
Does she?
Yeah. I don't know if this is a genetic kind of.
It is
German trait.
It is,
too.
and it does. Other races will have this. I think at 10%. But with certain Asian populations, so Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, about 36 to 45% of them have this effect. By the way, they call this a alcoholism protection gene.
I bet.
Okay, because
it limits the amount.
Yes. So what happens is it's a variation in enzyme that causes a buildup of acetaldehyde.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
So would something like Z-Biotic help this person?
Well, I don't know if it'll help this person. I don't think so. I think this is much good question, but no, I think this is much stronger than that. But it made me think of Z-Biotics. But they have a gene variant where they're not able to break down acetaldehyde fast enough. It builds up quickly. And acetaldehyde is toxic.
Well, that's how Z-Biotic works, right? Basically, that builds up when you drink alcohol, and it basically pairs with that and gets rid of it. Remind me how.
Okay, so Z-Biotics it's called a pre-alcohol supplement, but it's it's genetically modified probiotic. And what they did is they went in, modified bacteria to break down acetaldehyde in the gut. So when you drink alcohol, some of the alcohol turns into acetaldehyde in the gut. Now, the rest of it gets metabolized. Your liver breaks down the acetaldehyde. Does a pretty good job of doing that. But when acetaldehyde is released in the gut, it can cause all kinds of problems. It can get absorbed in the bloodstream, doesn't get taken care of by the liver, can cause gastro distress, can cause headaches, can cause nausea. I can't sleep. I get the sweats, all that stuff, right? So what Z-Biotics does is this bacteria sits in your gut. You drink it before you drink alcohol, and these bacteria break down acetaldehyde in your gut. So that's why everybody likes using it. But I found this fascinating because as I was researching acetaldehyde, it's like 35 to 45%.
That's a lot.
And they just can't, there's a gene variant where they can't break it down fast enough. And so they'll have like one drink and they'll get this red flush.
Well, that's interesting. Well, because too, like one of my friends, he could only drink like 1 or 2 drinks and he was like smashed. Asian dude. Yeah. And it was like.
Cheap date.
Yeah. I was like, that must be nice. Yeah, exactly. Like it was always expensive for me. But yeah, I wonder if that would he'd be able to actually build his volume up. Not that that's like
I don't
ideal.
know if it would help that. This is a gene variant, but I do know that when I do the Z-Biotics, I hate drinking without it. Hate it.
Yeah,
it's so different. I feel so different the day after if I don't take
it. Was
it.
the first, so we were packing right now. We're heading off to Cabo tomorrow, and that's like the first thing I tell Katrina, like, got to get the Z-Biotic because I know we're going to end up drinking while we're relaxed, especially it's an adult trip, just her and I. And so it's like the first thing that's like, that we got to have that when we fly out.
How many you can take with you?
I'll take one a day. So as long as I have one a day.
So one for each day that you're there.
Yeah, one for each day and then one for her. So what is that like? We're there for 3 or 4 days.
So take like 8 or something.
Yeah,
6,
6 to 8.
That's good.
I won't even use that many. We won't drink every day.
That's good.
But there'll be a day or two, I'm sure I will.
So we've talked about this before on the podcast, but somebody sent me, because we've talked about it, or I got tagged, or someone sent it. I think it was one of our staff members, sent me the history of hysteria. We've talked about this on the podcast. So hysteria used to be a medical diagnosis for women And
This is when they do the shock therapy, right?
Yes.
no,
Oh, this is not the shock therapy one.
No, it's funnier than
Hysteria
that.
Oh no,
related
this
to
is the
uterus.
This is
like,
this is the
is the history of the
basically
vibrator.
masturbate, right?
Oh,
Where the,
dude.
right?
So,
The doctor would do that to her, right?
so hysteria was essentially it's anxiety, right? So it's
Yeah.
like a woman who's overwhelmed, super anxious. But back then they called it hysteria, and you know where the word hysteria comes from?
it's uterus.
Yeah, the Greek word hystera, which means uterus. So what they thought was happening in these women, this is what doctors said, was that their uterus
was misaligned or something.
was misaligned.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so they go in there and align it
yeah.
with their fingers.
No,
And
so okay, so your wife, your wife,
Yeah.
you have 8 kids at home, and you guys are
give
you know,
them an orgasm.
and it's the Great Depression, but your wife, it must be your uterus, it has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
fact that you guys have so many kids, and you know,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
I think I read this because basically, okay, tell me if I'm wrong, but I guess there was so many women going back to get their uteruses aligned that doctors were getting tired, and this is where they came up with the idea to create something to actually insert in there.
So these women would go to doctors, and what doctors would do is they would do they called it hysterical paroxysm. That was the medical term, which was to orient the uterus. Essentially what they were doing was masturbating these women until they had an orgasm. And the orgasm would fix the uterus. And of course the women were like,
Feel amazing.
oh my God, I got a break from my kids. You know, I left. Some dude got to, diddle me, and I feel so much better. And it became so popular that these doctors were exhausted because they had to do it manually.
yeah.
So
They created a toy.
a doctor's like, I got to figure out a way to do this.
So they created the rabbit.
No, they created a vibrator.
Yeah, well, that's whatever the name was back then, right?
It was just called a vibrator.
It's the rabbit now. You know
Doug,
what I'm
look up the original
This is the magic wand.
Put up hysteria vibrator.
I've actually seen the black and white ad for it before, so I remember this now.
Yeah.
I remember. I think we might have talked about it a long time
and so
ago.
we did. So that's how the vibrator got invented. So
I mean, how did they didn't have batteries back then?
you plug it in.
You plug it in.
Plugged
Yeah,
as
it
a
had a
plug
cord.
in.
Steam engine. Oh my God. I want to see what this look. Oh, wow.
Oh wow.
That's the one.
Man,
Look at the cord.
what a collector's item,
Yeah.
huh?
Look at wait, what's that picture on the top right? Oh my God.
That's him doing it, giving it to her.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the referrals this guy was
Oh,
getting
I mean,
through the roof.
Imagine you're a handsome doctor.
What
Your
a
business is
procedure.
booming back then.
Yeah,
you know?
dude. So it relieves look. The relieves all suffering and disease. You imagine?
Well, imagine
what's
that's all-
crazy
that's
about
all you gotta
this?
do?
Like I always,
Oh,
whenever
dude,
I
that'd
see,
be
whenever I
amazing.
see stuff like this, like this is what Sal. This is not even 100 years ago, right?
Maybe
About 100 now.
I feel
right?
like this is all related to when these actually blew smoke in people's ass.
that would they actually did that too.
Yeah,
You know,
that was a
term
real
came
thing.
up for they would.
I mean, what are we doing today that we're gonna look back like? You know, what I'm
Don't
saying.
get me started.
Yeah, doesn't that come to mind when you guys see stuff like
Of
this?
course,
Yeah.
We're gonna look back and be like, what the?
It's not like there wasn't brilliant men and women that were back then.
Yeah, they were smart.
They were very smart people back there. So it's
Well,
not like
then-
we're like we've
What
evolved
were we
that
talking about the other day of that surgeon who was like adding his initials to people's organs and everything?
But that's not sold as a medical.
No,
cure.
but
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
I think more like that. Like, what are we telling
shenanigans.
people is a good idea now? Or
Well, I mean, look at it. Okay, take you back now for a second. Okay, you're a woman. You're overwhelmed. You got 9 kids. It's like you're whatever. Husband's an alcoholic. Who knows, right? Terrible. You go to this
Sweet
doctor,
release.
and you're like, man, I feel so much better. And then you tell all your friends, you're like, listen, you're stressed out. If you go to Dr. Smith,
go see Dr.
you feel
Smith.
he's
way
got
better.
fingers.
Yeah. So you're getting so many referrals.
We call them magic hands.
You know what I mean? Business is booming.
Dr. Diddles.
He's opening up 15 clinics. You know what I mean? New York
I mean, so what makes me do this too is like how many charlatan doctors popped up, just good-looking, handsome guys that just pretended to be these doctors.
Oh my God! Look at that
I
one right there.
specialize in this.
Oh my God.
There had to
Specialize
have been
in
a whole
hysteria.
black. There had to have been a whole black market for this.
Holy shit! Look at that machine right
Wow.
there. Wow, dude.
That is a steam powered like.
no. Oh my God. But yeah, you're right though. It makes me think of that. It's like,
Of course, a black market would pop up. With
or
that.
just what are we doing now?
You got a horse and
oh yeah,
wagon.
What are we doing now?
What are we doing now that we're gonna look back? Because it worked. You know, they would say, "What are you talking about? It works." I'm curing all kinds of hysteria. That one has a hand crank. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, a lot of those don't look like they'd be good at all.
Speaking of women, I don't think I brought this up on an episode. I know I think I talked about it answering somebody's question, but did I talk to you guys about the study? Did I do it on a regular episode? So stop me if I already brought it up. Where they studied, where they trained different groups of women, And one group, they train them according to their cycle, and the other group, they just train them regularly to see which one produced better results.
Like the same result.
Same result. Yeah, same result. There was no difference.
I mean, we've known this.
Yeah.
We've known this.
So like, because you see this on social media.
It's
like
popular right now.
Like train according to your menstrual cycle and your dopamine. This is when your estrogen is high and your progesterone is low, and this is when you have the most. When you're ovulating is when you should lift the heaviest or whatever, and it sells well because it sounds
because
science-based.
Well, it is
logical in some regard, but
exactly there is some logic, there is science to support the argument, but then the other argument that can be made is just it's leaving out other factors that are as important or more important.
You're right.
I've had these debates with people that because there's quite a few very intelligent doctors that promote programming like this. And when you're listening, and then I've had clients, I've had family and friends of mine that like, oh, you got to listen to Dr. So-and-so.
Yeah.
She breaks down. I'm like, no, I understand the science. I understand what she's claiming or what she's saying. What you aren't understanding is that you getting in a fight with your husband the night before, or poor night's sleep, or missing your macros 3 days in a row has way more
workout was the day before,
has way more of an impact. Yeah, or overtrained the last session. All has way more of an impact than where you are in your cycle.
Or just even your perceived how you feel.
Right.
It's sometimes
so it's not to discount you that like, because I know what happens is there's like some people with this lens like, oh my God, that's so right. Like day 3 of my period, I never want to work out and I feel great on day 5. And so you're following this thing. It's like, okay, just because the stars align with you and what you're hearing, the research support as far as what's going on hormonally with you does not trump all those other things.
No, I never once, and a majority of my clients were women. It's just the way it works when you're a trainer. A good 60% of your clients will be women at least. Never once did I ask them what day.
I know.
It was. I would ask them like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
How was your sleep? And I'd watch them do a set. And
People love absolutes and specifics.
Yeah,
It's just the bottom line. That's what sells everybody.
Yep, it's just marketing. So, ladies, training according to your cycle, waste of time. Train according to how you feel. That's definitely a good place to start for sure. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, I have a free guide that teaches you how to lose fat in 3 steps, just 3 steps that will burn the most amount of body fat and help keep it off. This guide is totally free. We're giving it to everybody right now. If you want it, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show. I read some data on GHK-CU in cosmetics. So it's starting to get used as a peptide.
Oh, Katrina loves it, dude.
Okay, so this is getting used or it's getting added to cosmetics now. This is a peptide that
probably one of the most effective ones
for skin.
When it comes to skin and
Okay, so do you guys want to know how much it increases collagen production in the skin when applied? 70%.
Whoa.
70%.
No way, that's huge.
70% increase in collagen production.
Huh.
You rub this on your face.
Wow.
You will get a 70% increase in collagen production.
Wow.
Now, here's the downside. 99.9% of the cosmetics that include GHK-CU don't have enough in it. We work with
medical grade.
We work with Luminos by Entera. It'll cost money. Okay, so that's how you know. By the way, it's not cheap, but they put the max amount that you can put in there.
Katrina loves it.
Yeah, but 70% increase.
Wow, that's pretty insane. I wonder if you combo that, because I know too, like sometimes like you have to kind of those spiky rollers, like you have to kind of aggravate the skin a little bit just to promote healing and new cell growth.
Great combination.
So yeah, those together would be
great combination. By the way, GHK-CU is also shown to dramatically improve recovery from sun damage. So if you're prone to sunburn, using this, now I did this, by the way. So my niece and nephew were with us over the summer, and they're white, they're English. Half of my wife's family is from England. And so these kids are super white. We were outside and the next day, my niece was like red, right? Sunburn, full on. So I'm like, put this all over your face, watch what happens. The sunburn was gone the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like it was gone. There was no more sunburn.
Well, sun's finally coming out. I'll have to be a part of that experiment.
Yes. So I got something cool for you, Justin, that I read that it's one of those like, I guess it falls into conspiracy theory, but I think it's super cool.
Okay.
Information about DNA. You've been
finally. God, I was like, dude, you've been alluding to this for the last like 3 days. Like, dude, I got this crazy DNA stuff.
So you know how DNA is that double helix, design, right? You know what DNA looks like. And those little bridges that go in between
Yeah.
each side, those are called sulfur bridges. And there's a sulfur bridge every 10, and then every five, and then every 6, and then every 5 steps. So when you look at DNA, there's certain chemicals that I forgot what the letters are that represent the chemicals in DNA, and it'll go 10. There's a sulfur bridge. Then it'll go 5 sulfur bridge, 6 sulfur bridge, 5 sulfur bridge, and then repeat 10, 5, 6, 5, 10.
So it's all
5,
the same
6, 5.
sequence.
It's always the same, right? And it just goes up, and so kind of interesting. DNA in general is really interesting. If you correspond those to letters, to Jewish letters, so numbers can represent a letter in Hebrew. Okay, 10 is Y, 5 is H, 6 is W, 5 is H, Yahweh. By the way, so it's literally spells Yahweh. The 5s also have a Jewish word that corresponds, which is behold. The Y corresponds to hand, and the W is a nail. So it literally will say, it literally says hand, nail. It's like hand, nail, behold, nail, something like that. So behold, hand, and nail. And it also spells
It's
Yahweh.
all encoded.
Encoded in your DNA.
Isn't
that cool?
This is all
That's
people,
crazy.
all humans.
Everybody,
It's-
everybody. So it's encoded in your
There's
DNA.
like a book with all this, like the biblical code.
Yeah, dude. Have you seen that?
Trippy. I only read like, part of the description of it. I never actually read the book, but I am curious to read it because it was like they've found a lot of these algorithms and patterns and so many things like encoded.
Yeah, like the
What
Old
is-
Testament, like every 5 letters, is that what you're talking about?
Right.
What is it-
Exactly.
what is that
The
called?
very
What is that called though? When we use like there's so
we're
many
looking for something.
Yeah, and there's so many
we
variables.
see it.
There's so many crazy amount of variables that it's there's going to be these things that line up. It's like all the people that try and make the predictions on when the world.
Doug, look up the biblical code
that has
and
to
look up what it
factor in.
means.
Yeah, like
because
what is that?
it's-
There's a term for that.
I know what you're talking about.
I can't think of the term.
But some of this is so impossible to just make up that it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but there's a book called the Bible Code, and I saw some videos where they broke it down. It was really wild. But I thought this DNA one was really crazy.
that's weird. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, because it's Yahweh.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which is
I mean, you should get the book would be interesting to read. I would be interested in something like that. That's interesting to me. Dude, I'll tell you. Have I been telling you guys how I'm having this like conversation with Max with us moving and stuff? It's like an ongoing thing for us, right? So
It's a big deal to little kids.
Yeah, and I'm highly motivated after the recent book that Katrina and I just read, and so like trying to stay ahead of these things and things that maybe are traumatic for him that we think are no big deal, and trying to communicate more and stuff like that. So of course it's like top of mind, and Katrina was like, hey, I really want. She's the one that brought it up first. Like, hey, I really want to talk to him up into the move. I really want to consistently step him through that. And so we've been doing that, and it's actually been really cool because we're like a couple weeks into doing it almost every day or every night because we've been going over there so much, moving stuff over. There's conversation around it, and I can already see a difference in like how he's receiving it, and he's starting to get a little excited about it. And I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. This is good. And we haven't even got to his room and what we're going to do there, which I think that's really going to tip it over. But I did have a night the other night that was a bit comical because I told you this is the house of all the houses we've had him in 3 houses, but he's only 5 going on 6. This house has been the last 2.5 years. And so he remembers this. He doesn't remember the other ones. This is his house. Yeah, this is his house. And so imagine the conversation. And he finds this out. We're talking and I explained to him, well, technically, son, this is not our house. We rent this house. And the one we're going to, Daddy bought. The look on his face, this is not our house. Bro, he was so like, he did not understand. Like,
why are we here?
Why are we here? And then he had to go back. Like, what about the blue house? What about the movie? Like he said, I'm like, no, that's ours. This is not. This is not. I don't understand, Daddy. Why is someone else letting us live in their house? Why are we, bro?
Poor kid.
Oh, and me trying to figure out how do I articulate this?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, how do I articulate this? And I said, fuck it. I'm going to talk to him like he's 30. You know what I'm saying? Just say, well, it was a bad investment at the time for us to buy any real estate.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I did, bro. So it wasn't really good timing. The market wasn't great.
That's all going to sink in.
Oh,
too
bro,
much.
I know. I'm like, I just said, I didn't even know how. dumb this down. I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna talk to him like if an adult asked me why are you renting this house? And so I just went down the rabbit hole of interest rates and saving and investing.
Okay,
and,
you don't want to make bad investments.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
But,
so
dude,
cute.
the look on his face when I told him that this isn't our house and that we rented somebody else's house, he was like so confused. I'm like, why is somebody letting us stay in their house? Like, is he gonna want it back soon? And like, is he gonna live here? Like, oh my god, it was really
funny.
a funny moment to get you. And I treated him like he was an adult, and I was like, because I didn't know what to say. I'm like, how do you explain that to a kid? I'm like, well, forget it. I'm just gonna explain it to like I'm explaining an adult.
I mean, you might as well at that point.
That's kind of how I felt. I'm like, what's the right thing to say to him that's not lying to him?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, just
Tell him the truth.
Yeah, just would. And so,
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I asked you this off air, but I'd love to bring it up on the show because I think it's a really good discussion. I know how much you like your neighbors where you're currently at. You know them all. You always talk about your neighbors.
Yeah.
Moving to another neighborhood, like what's that like for you? Have you met new neighbors?
It's actually Katrina and I had a long conversation about this. It's the number one thing we're most worried about. It's the thing that was the hardest to. I've lived in a lot of houses, both growing up, even an adult. You guys have seen me just in our 10 years together. I think you guys have seen me in 5 houses or so, right? So I've moved a lot. And the neighborhood that we landed in last, when we've been in for the last 2.5 years, I've never had a neighborhood like this. And I'm not exaggerating when I say like the whole neighborhood is like half of them are outside in front of their house 50% of the time. So when I pull up home, almost always Timo is out, Garrett across the way is out, and they're coming over to each other, garage doors open, you just walk into your neighbor's garage and talking and borrowing each other's tools and just look out for each other. When I've never had a neighborhood where whenever Katrina and I leave for more than one night, I go to my neighbor's house and let him know, like, hey, I'm taking off for a couple days. Cool, I'll keep an eye on the place for you. And I'll get a text randomly when I'm gone, like, hey, some guy pulled up to your house. Were you expecting? Oh, it's my brother-in-law. He's picking something up. Like, it's just been so cool to have neighbors like that. And it's given me this sense of community, security that I've never had before. And to leave that is, man, it's been tough.
I think community is so understated and undervalued these days. I mean, when you have it, you know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so many of us grow up without it because I think especially in modern suburban areas and cities, you don't really have that.
Yeah, you're a bit removed.
Bro, it's a big deal. I would live in a subpar house in a great neighborhood with neighbors that I know way more than an amazing house.
I agree. So my first house when I was 21, I had that house for 8 years and it was a condo. I met one neighbor, maybe saw him once a year for 8 years. That's all I knew. I didn't know who lived next to me.
That's a reality for a lot of people.
I'm guilty. Like I'm just as guilty of like not really building that and stuff like that. It was like in and out work. Didn't really care. And so I've been on one extreme and then I've seen kind of now the other extreme. And I never realized how much I would value that. And so it was the biggest talk. Like, I mean, honestly, if we actually asked, we tried to buy that house. I tried to see if the guy who owns it, I was like, hey, do you want to sell this? Like, I would buy it, even though I've got an issue with the only thing I don't like the garage. You guys know that situation. The garage is small. And so other than that, I love the house. I love the area. We would have stayed there. Originally, I had planned to stay there for a really long time, but we've just kind of outgrew the footprint. And so that was really what made us move to another place. And then of course, like I told my son, like it was I believe it was a smart time to buy.
That's a lot of people don't know this, but you can look this up and read about it. One of the biggest changes in modern culture was the move away from community. Families used to live very close to each other, and neighborhoods used to know one another. That was a very common thing.
If you go back east or Midwest and stuff like that,
there's a lot of neighborhoods like that.
No fences.
Yeah.
You walk out your backyard and you're in your neighbor's backyard, and there's no fences. Like you actually have to actively go build a fence. Nobody built. They build properties, and there's just an invisible property line there, and it's weird for us Californians to go to a place like that, and you're like, this is so weird. I walk in my backyard and my neighbor's staring at me in his backyard. But it used to be normal, and we're the ones that put fences up big tall fences and
Private, don't look at
you
me.
feel the difference in friendliness and eye contact and all that. It's so different. in the
Huge.
Midwest than here.
Especially when you have a
Huge.
family, like, thinking back to when we had my son Aurelius, that was a really tough time. And a lot of it was because I think we were isolated. Remember that was during COVID.
Yeah.
We were isolated. I'm a part of a church community now, and we have friends there that we've become real close with. We're in text every day. We see them multiple times a week. They'll come over, bring their kids over when I'm not there. Jessica and the wives will get together sometimes. Me and the husbands meet together, and it would have been a completely different experience had we had that same community.
Yeah.
And we totally miss that in modern societies. It takes work. But man, without that, and once you feel the difference, it's like, why would I would never want to be isolated like I was before.
I mean, I've had to work on it. It reminds me of the same relationship I had with Katrina and her family when we first got together. I didn't value it the way I value it today. After having a son and a family, and then because I get a sense of community from that too, right? Because her family's at our house probably 2-3 times a week. My brother-in-law's right now at my house with Katrina right now. Like they're always over. And that probably annoyed me in the first 5 years of our relationship, where now it's like I have such a different attitude about it because I value that. My sister, one of my sisters moved to Texas, deep in the heart of Texas, in the middle of nowhere. And everybody in my family was just like, oh my, she's never going to be able to last out there. It's so far away. And she's isolated and this, and that. But what she has is she's in this almost like a naval type of neighborhood. A lot of people are ex-military, military, and they all have got incredible. Every time I see a video or a post on Instagram, her whole block gets in one person's yard, and there's 3 barbecues going and lawn chairs out. You see kids in the background riding bikes.
That fills your soul.
Oh man, I'm like, oh my God, she's she's built her own family and community, even though she's away from her immediate family. She's built another extended family with her neighborhood. And I guess I didn't really see how powerful that could be until I've been able to see that myself and my extreme examples.
We're supposed to be in community.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
And it's such a good, it is a weird.
It fills your heart.
It's a good feeling.
Yes.
And there's a lot
There's
of
nothing that compares.
We travel a lot. And so, it's such a nice feeling when I take off somewhere and I know Max and Katrina are home alone, that I know my 4 neighbors that are around that. It's one of them is home and knows my wife is home alone and knows that to keep an eye. And it's just that's a cool, really good feeling for someone who's out like that. And it's you don't think about it until you've had it. And then I think about it a lot now. We're going to a place that
what we've done is we've entertained ourselves to death. You got all this stuff to watch, all this stuff to distract yourself. You don't make the effort to go out and meet anybody. And we move away from each other. Families are no longer live close together. And it's become now the norm after a couple generations of it that people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
And it feels awkward at first, but man, I'm telling you, it's when it comes to health, if you look at the data, by the way, on this, one of the most impactful things you can do to improve your health is to simply be in community. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and we can break them all down. Some of them we can't even explain, but I know the feeling. I know the feeling now of being in the community I'm in now, and it fulfills you. And there's nothing that compares at all.
Yeah.
Super valuable.
We're still rebuilding ours right now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because
you guys were in a great.
Well, yeah, in a great spot, Everett especially, because all these kids were about his age, and so they would be at each other's houses, they'd be riding bikes together and all this stuff, and it's once you hit that formative junior high age, it's it drives a lot of families out, because there's where I live, it's just kind of gone to shambles in terms of and I grew up in the area, and it was an amazing community, and it's just gone downhill because just the types of families that moved in and their value system doesn't really align with ours. And so, but anyway, I'm looking for that again, and we're going to be restarting that in about a year. But yeah, it's tough, dude. It's tough when you're you had a really set good thing, and then now you have to rebuild it again. But it's important to rebuild it.
Yeah, that actually had what you're alluding to too has a lot to do with what made me settle down on a place to call home. Right now was that I made a commitment to Katrina. I remember talking about this before Max was even born, and then when he was first born, that once he started getting into school, I didn't want to move him around. I moved my whole life, like I lived in nine different homes growing up, and had to change communities, had to change neighborhoods, had to change schools all the time. Now, I also appreciate that. It's probably where some of my skill sets of being able to make friends quickly and communicate to all different peoples, be a chameleon. So I do value that. But there's something to be said too about the consistency for a kid to be able to call home and feel comfortable.
You build relationships that last forever.
Yeah.
And really, again, if you look, again, I'll go back to the data. It's my personality, right? When you look at the data, you need to be in family communities. Men need to be part of men communities, male communities. Women need to be part of women communities. It's really, I started, and this is twice a month. I have every other week, I have a men's group and we meet together, and it's a Bible-led, right, Christian group, but it's a bunch of guys, and you should hear what these guys say after. I didn't know how much I needed to meet with other men and talk about things and whatever. Yeah. It's like you need that. Otherwise,
more now than ever, probably.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I agree.
Paleo Valley makes a collagen-rich protein drink that is literally the most delicious protein powder I've ever had in my entire life. The second best thing about it is that it's the easiest to digest. If you get like gastro distress from protein, gas, whatever, theirs is made from bone broth. Super easy to digest, and it tastes amazing. Amazing. Go check them out. Go to paleovalley.com/mindpump. On that link, you'll get 15% off. Back to the show. This segment of the podcast is brought to you by Mind Pump Fitness Coaching. This is the #1 course that teaches trainers and coaches how to build sustainable 6-figure plus businesses and careers in fitness. Look, it's roundtable based, so you can hear Adam, Justin, and myself teaching you how to build a better business, get more leads, close more deals, close bigger deals, and be more effective trainers. By the way, our course is nationally recognized. In fact, it gives you 1.9 CEUs with or for your NASM certification. Find out more at mindpumpfitnesscoaching.com.
First question is from CastGirl078. Some of my favorite influencer athletes seem to maintain a shredded look all the time. Is that realistic?
I mean, realistic if you want a miserable life. So for most people, no. And if you're willing to do what it takes to stay shredded all the time, AKA compromise your health, count all your calories, never go out, not have a social life, et cetera, if you're willing to do that for the shredded look year round, it is not worth it. The value of the shredded look will not give you back the effort and the missed time with people and all that stuff. So no, it's not a good thing. What you tend to see with people who are shredded all the time is body obsession, some body dysmorphia, maybe performance enhancing substances, but a lot of it is just this obsession. And so no, it's not. And what sucks about this is these are the people that get lots of views. And so the information they promote is through the filter and lens of their own body dysmorphia and obsession. And so a lot of the advice they give is like they're talking to themselves.
I'll be the first one to admit that walking into a gym or a Vegas pool and actually being the most shredded person there is really cool feeling. Massive ego boost, feels amazing in the moment, but it's quickly flees. And you're on to the next thing, and it don't matter that much. And the sacrifice it takes to obtain that look, and where that desire comes from, as far as like it's rooted in insecurity, like to be that way. I mean, unless maybe you have this specific goal or competition, and then you're going to do it and then be done with it. That's one thing. But this desire of I need to or want to look this way is normally rooted in some sort of insecurity, some sort of a body image issue that you personally have. And so it's not a direction you want. And even if you decide you're going to do this, okay, because I do think there's some value to taking yourself to this extreme level of fitness, because you learn a lot along the way around nutrition and diet and consistency. And there's some valuable things to take away. but it also can become very, addicting and alluring and intoxicating to get all the compliments and feel all that. And then it can become a bit of a trap of feeling like you now identify with this look. And that's a really dangerous place to be. And so I would be very careful with, pursuing this as like your main goal.
Yeah. And the other side of it is just not healthy. So you are compromising your health.
Especially, for women.
They destroy your hormones.
Yeah. It's fact. Like, it's not a healthy place to be. And yeah, psychologically, it's like, okay, sure, you might get attention and it feels good. And but then at what point is it like you're doing this for other people? Is this really something like you're desiring? And, I don't know. It's psychologically, like, I feel so much better when like everything I'm doing is just to benefit my health and longevity and like how I feel.
No, you'll destroy your hormones, your fertility. If you're a female, it'll definitely negatively affect your fertility. For men, testosterone is going to drop. You'll develop a dysfunctional relationship with food. Super not worth it. It's just not worth it. What you get from it, the couple of compliments is not worth the loss of quality of life, because that's exactly what it is. You lose your quality of life. Oh, yeah. Now, and you guys got to remember, everybody says remember this with social media. It's advertising. Like, a company would never put out advertising talking about how shitty their product is or how they're not hitting their bottom line or how unhappy their employees are. A company's always going to create a facade with advertising. That's what social media is. It's fake facade, everybody. So you see a smiling person with a six-pack and I'm enjoying my time out, whatever. We personally know a lot of these people. We've met them. They're miserable. They're not happy. You don't want to be like them.
If that's your only value, at that point too, it makes sense to Photoshop. It makes sense to just take a photo shoot and like drip it all year long, like you're always this fit, because it's like that's your value. So if that's like all you're going for, like, I don't know, like I could see people getting in that predicament. Well, I'm just going to do this because that way I still look like it.
Next question is from Jim Crowley, 2022. I just had a knee replacement surgery and now I'm having trouble with my quads not firing. Are there any priming exercises I can do to help with this?
Isometrics. This is where I actually like a leg extension. You can get in a leg extension, do 1 rep, hold it at the top, focus on squeezing the quads, bring it down slow, do another rep, and you hold the squeeze for like 5 seconds or so. Like, you do
wall sits
a set of this where you're squeezing your quads in the contracted position, then go do your leg exercise and you'll start to feel them. So I've trained people with knee replacements who had this issue. And it was always, and I would do it with bands. I didn't even have a leg extension in my studio. I'd do it with bands, or I'd have them sit at the edge of a bench. They'd bring their legs up and I'd push down.
That's the most isolating that you can get with the quad.
In rehab, they'll just take like a towel over your ankle and they'll just
pull down on it.
You don't even need that much resistance. A wall sit too. So a wall sit, leg extension like that. I think both those.
The idea is when you're having trouble firing a muscle is to put it in a shortened position, a fully flexed position, and then squeeze it there, because you're most likely
with intensity.
If you're going to connect to a muscle, it's easiest to connect to it in its shortened position, not in its lengthened position. So what do I mean by that? Well, it's easier for me to squeeze and feel my bicep with my arm flexed than it is with my arm extended. So get it in that shortened position, that leg extended position, apply some pressure, or just hold them out and squeeze them. And
would you still use it in the lengthened position also too, though? Like in the wall sit situation?
You could, and you're going to be firing them.
I feel like I do both.
You're going to fire them. It's not a fully lengthened position, but like if you really have trouble connecting to them.
Yeah, leg extension.
Yeah.
That's what they do in rehab. In rehab, they're gonna resist you with the towel at the top, and leg extensions is how they rehab to get you connected first. But then I would incorporate. I think any isometrics in that situation is a good move.
Next question is from Alana B40301. If you're starting as a personal trainer but want to work online, should you work at a gym at least part-time to get hands-on experience with people?
If you want to be good?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Short answer, yes.
100. I mean, you're going to hear this from us always. I mean, and we teach people how to coach people online, and we have a course for trainers, and we help people like that all the time.
But we don't lie to them.
But we don't. We're always very consistent with the best thing you could do is to work in a big box gym. And if you don't have a big box gym, just a gym period. But a commercial gym is where you're going to get the most repetitions, the most access to the most diverse group of people, which that's what's going to make you good as a trainer is
it's application.
Yeah.
You know, where are you going to be able to get that much application? You can get all the education you want, but you actually have to be there and like work through all
You're
these
going to see a lot
clients.
of these, and they're popping up a lot now, and they really annoy me. A lot of these courses and these influencers who teach trainers how to make a lot of money doing online coaching, and you can always tell they're charlatans because they show all their fancy cars and how much money they make and whatever. They're not really talking about the real purpose and reasoning behind online coaching. And what they tell coaches and trainers is you can make a lot of money being an online coach. You don't need to be a trainer or a coach in person. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Is it possible to be a good online coach without never having trained somebody in person? Yeah. Is it probable? No. It's highly improbable.
Does that have longevity?
If you want to be, first of all, if it's hard to train people effectively in person, you multiply it times 100. That's how much harder it will be virtually.
I mean, you can go get your, master's in kinesiology, 5 national certs, read all the studies, and so you can articulate the science really good to somebody. But the stuff that really moves the needle with a client are those little, and we've seen this, you have a litmus test of this. If you look at our YouTube video, all that we've done, I don't know, hundreds. I don't know how many videos we've done on the Mind Pump TV channel, right? There's hundreds, maybe 1,000 videos that we've done on there. They're all exercise demo videos. The videos that go the most viral, the most comments, the most likes, or anything like that, are the most simple, basic cues that we've learned to give people, but that no book taught me. No book told me when I do a lat pull down to tell my client the last 3 inches, pull your chest up to the bar, and that's going to help you, squeeze your lats. Like that. That's not necessarily mechanically correct. Like that's not how you would articulate that.
Bring your elbows down and bring your scapula together.
Yeah. Abduction of the humerus and the horizontal plane is how you flex your chest. Well, that's great. But if you have a client who can't flex their chest, what do? What kind of cues you give? That's the stuff that you learn in real life when you've had a lot of people sit in front of you is, okay, you got the science, you understand biomechanics, that's important, which that can make you a decent or a good trainer. But what makes you great is being able to take that science, take that information, understand those biomechanics, and then apply it in real world with real world terms to average people. So the average person. And then can you take that and do it over a phone or a Zoom call with somebody? Because then that's the next layer to that, in my opinion. And so the in-person thing becomes necessary if you're going to be great.
If you're going to be good, I think you should do in-person first, or at least have some in-person clients at the same time.
Next question is from Warrior Reborn 4. Is it normal for your waist to thicken as you get stronger and don't use a weight belt? I can't tell if it's muscle or visceral fat.
Well, the rest of the question that you didn't read, Doug, is about perimenopause. And perimenopause and hormone changes that happen through perimenopause can change fat distribution. Yeah. And you'll hear this complaint. I used to hear this complaint with my female clients who are in perimenopause, which will happen late 30s typically for a woman, and definitely menopause. They'd come to me and be like, I don't know what's happening, but suddenly I'm gaining body fat in my midsection. I never gained body fat in my midsection before, and now I suddenly am. And as an early trainer, I totally dismissed them, which was dumb. But now I know better, and the data on this is pretty clear that hormone changes can definitely cause changes in how you distribute body fat. In other words, when you gain body fat, where you store it can start to shift based on the hormone signals. So that's what's happening. What's happening is not that you're getting stronger and your waist is getting thicker from it, because the muscle around your waist, you can build it as much as you want. You're not going to get big waist. You'll get you'll see that it'll look sculpted. Yeah. You're not going to get this big, thick waist. Yeah. What's happening is you're gaining body fat and it's going to your waist. Now, how do you change that? You get leaner. And if you want to change your hormone profile, you can get on hormone replacement therapy. But it has nothing to do with your lifting weights. Yeah,
if someone asked me this question, especially if they're perimenopausal right now, I would definitely send them to do blood work. I mean, that would be the first thing I do is like before I would dismiss. Oh, that's not happening. You're fine. I would say let's go get a full blood panel and see where you're at, and then potentially supplement. Although it's interesting, we've interviewed experts on perimenopause and menopause. And they'll say that the blood work won't even show it in perimenopause. Mm-hmm. It doesn't show yet. Menopause will show, but we know menopause, right? Because you stop your period.
perimenopause really is, they base it now off of age and symptoms. So, and it's typically between 35 to 40, I think is when they say.
If the estrogen is off and they're starting to store body fat in their belly, they're not gonna
that's when it
show-
gets close to menopause.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say because
Yeah.
that. I mean, because that's normally what is causing the belly fat is the estrogen level is off, right?
Yeah.
So that would show up in blood.
It
work.
may, but not always in perimenopause. I
So
forgot
they'd
who it
have
was.
to describe all their symptoms of the doctor at the same time.
I forgot who it was we had on the show.
Yeah,
She's
We
like,
just had her. We haven't aired it though.
She's like, good luck. It's like perimenopause, you often don't see, you can't necessarily measure it, but you see the symptoms and age.
Yeah.
So they could do hormone therapy and perimenopause based off of symptoms and based off of
What was the name of that doctor? What was her name, Doug?
Mary Claire, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last name.
She's coming.
I'll look it up.
We
for
have
you.
her coming up soon, so that's a great one to listen to. And then, I mean, we've got several female
Dr.
clients.
Lauren Fitz.
Yep.
She's real good. But yeah, this is not from. It's not from lifting weights, that's a stupid myth about the like thicken your waist with weights. It's not happening. It's just not happening.
Keep deadlifting.
Yeah, keep deadlifting. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. Stop doing 3 sets of 12 to build muscle and do this instead. You guys want to guess?
Stop doing the 3 sets of 12 and do this instead. With that intro, my guess is you're going to tell people to change the rep range
5
up
by
to 5 by 5 or low rep range.
Do you guys remember
the
when
angle you're going?
Yeah, so oftentimes we get stuck in like a set count and a rep count or a range that's